Now that we know what the Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training Program is and does, it's time to get to work. The pilots for ENJJPT Class 2603 have arrived at Sheppard Air Force Base. The class is represented by 6 of the 14 nations in the NATO alliance. The first order of duty for the student pilots was to meet their commanding officer, Colonel Jeffrey Juice Shulman, for their initial briefing.
Because that's the whole point that you're at ENJJPT, right? You are the best of the best for your nations, right? From wherever you came from, I guarantee you were handpicked, screened, and selected to be sitting in these chairs.
After the briefing, we caught up with a number of the student pilots to get their initial reactions and expectations heading into the grueling program.
First ride in the T6, obviously, and yeah, also the first solo ride, because there's always something to look forward to.
So looking forward to trying to fly some formation, and yeah, always dreamed of doing some cloud surfing, if that's a possibility.
Once the solo flight is checked off, I think I'm most excited for the 4-ship formations. Those I'm quite sure will be very demanding and very exciting to be a part of.
I'm looking forward to touching an airplane. After that, probably the low-level phase. Just a culmination of everything we learned during the course, and we get to apply it while flying low-level.
I'm looking forward to the aerobatics. I think after reading up on World War I history, a lot of the aerobatics that we do here are invented during those times when they were just figuring out how to fly airplanes in a military environment. All those things have transferred here, and so us learning this is just the beginning of how we embark on our military adventures in the aircraft.
Now, before these student pilots can begin to climb into the cockpit, basic aerospace physiology and physical training happens. Student pilots are measured and tested to be in top physical shape, because flying a fighter jet isn't exactly first-class accommodations. Some of the first lessons at ENJJPT are getting the pilots ready for the worst things that they could encounter, to prepare them if the unthinkable happens.
So one of the main things that we train them for is to recognize their hypoxia symptoms. Hypoxia is just oxygen deficiency in the body, mainly like in the tissues, in the brain, in the blood. So our bodies aren't meant to function up there at altitude naturally. So for that, we give them supplemental oxygen. That's what they have their masks on for. And we train them in this chamber to recognize what symptoms they would get if they were feeling hypoxic in the aircraft because of a cabin depressurization. So crazy things like, you know, a window breaking or a door panel flying off, or even just the oxygen pressurization system of the aircraft itself failing.
This hypoxia training takes a full hour to complete. We asked some of the student pilots what symptoms they felt during the test.
Like as soon as I took off my mask, like a couple of seconds later, I was already feeling hot, maybe a little bit dizzy. I felt like I couldn't think as straight as I was used to. My feet got really hot and tingly. Yeah, like
it started with some kind of a blurry vision, and then I had like this upcoming heat in the body, so like a flush.
I felt kind of drunk. I got this dizziness, a little hot flushes in the skin. I felt lightheaded, but not in a bad way. It was actually quite relaxing. And then my vision started getting a little blurred.
The student pilots are also placed in scenarios that prepare them for and recognize what to do in emergency situations. Each station represents a malfunction or failure that could happen. And in the event that something goes wrong, pilots have to be ready to eject. Recognizing how your parachute will function and the challenges that it presents is a day of training in itself. Student pilots learn and practice how to properly fall when landing with a parachute, and even what to do when the parachute tries to drag you away in windy conditions. Now, while the student pilots make this training look easy, I'm here to tell you, it's not.
An exciting experience, yeah, and it was pretty physical, and basically it was falling on the ground, so pretty dirty right now too. It's a pretty good training, especially when we get into a situation where we have to eject, so we are well prepared for this with the training we did today.
Let's say you get on the ground, you're in a field, windy just like here in Wichita Falls, Texas, and that canopy still wanted to blow you over to the east. Being able to understand when you're getting dragged on the ground through that canopy, how to release from those clips, and overall make sure that you're safe, not banging in the rocks, getting pulled obviously by your classmates. Quite fun.
After dusting themselves off, the students head back to the classroom, all in preparation to get in the pilot seat of state-of-the-art flight simulators. After studying vigorously to be ready to take the next step, each student pilot is matched one-on-one with an instructor. Before heading into the sims, the pilots go over some of their pre-flight checkpoints with the instructor. When ready, they prepare just like they'll be doing when flying the real thing, gearing up in their flight suits, helmets, and masks. Now, these simulators are the best way to prepare the pilots before they get behind the stick of a real plane. In this first round of training, the students are preparing to fly the T-6 Texan II. It's a single-engine, two-seater plane that pilots learn basic military flying skills in. Instructors are in the simulators with the student pilots from the time that they walk in to the time that they walk out, a steady figure alongside for guidance.
The sims they're very valuable because you can do a lot of training in the simulator, and for one, it's not wasting time on an aircraft that costs a lot more money. We have some basic sims without visuals. They can practice switchology, all the ground ops, starting the engine, takeoff checks, after landing checks. We also have other sims that have just basic visual, which is just a TV in front of the cockpit. And then the larger sims, which are what we call the OFTs, those have almost 360-degree visuals. Those allow more advanced training where the student has to maneuver the aircraft maybe to like an emergency field for an emergency landing. He needs to be able to see off to his left, to his right.
Now that the student pilots have flown virtually, the itch to get in the real cockpit and take off is getting stronger.
Getting to actually practice it in the sims is where the rubber meets the road, and it's where things really get interesting. Flipping all the switches and doing things, you kind of want to push yourself to see, okay, how good am I actually at this? And what's it going to be like when I'm actually inside the real plane, doing the real thing?
I think even talking to everybody else in the course, everyone's just itching to get through this part of the academics and get through sims, get competent enough to somewhat get shown what to do in the real world. But we're all pretty excited to get out and start flying in a more Monday to Friday schedule.
We are just a few weeks into training and the class has come so far. In our next installment, we'll hear from Class 2603's flight commanders, and we'll be there when the student pilots get to pet the jet and take their first flights. That's all coming up next time on Wings of Alliance.